Hello guys, welcome to the channel, Talking with Jay Springer. I'm your host Jay, giving you a video on the channel today. Hello guys, welcome to this Journey to X-Men Dark Phoenix YouTube series. It's sadly coming to the end, and on today's video I'm giving you a very special video. This is going to be the ranking from the worst to the best, in my opinion, on the X-Men franchise. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. So guys, I quickly wanted to show you my rankings if it was just about my ratings through this YouTube series. So from worst to best, as you can see on the screen, Origins from worst, Logan's at the best at the moment. This would be by rating. But I didn't, as I said in the beginning of the video, this is not just about my ratings. Obviously my ratings throughout this YouTube series are going to play a big part in my actual ranking. But I'm also looking at the enjoyment of the movie with the good and the bad points, how many times I've watched the movie or how many times I go to watch that movie. Everything's going to come into this ranking video, which makes this ranking video a little bit different to my John Wick one and the MCU one. So let's just get straight into it. Coming in at number 12, guys, we have X-Men Apocalypse. Now, I'm sure you all are not surprised that this is at the bottom of my list. This movie has many bad points when it comes to the pacing of the movie. In my opinion, when it comes to Raven and Mystique played by Jennifer Lawrence, I just feel like a character arc really ruins the movie. When you have Angel played by an actor which really could have been played by a better actor in my opinion. I feel like Storm was used bad in this movie, obviously on the bad side. I felt like the storyline was all over the place with this movie. There was emotional sequences that really weren't emotional. You have Logan in the movie which shouldn't have been in the movie, even though it was a good sequence. There was some good things about this movie. Just like most movies, the cast really come into it, as well as the technical side of things. But the story really, the main good thing about this movie was the story about Eric and his family really. But outside of that, there really wasn't much going for this movie. I could see what they tried to do with this movie, but really they didn't execute it. Coming in at number 11, guys. Now, this is X-Men The Last Stand. Now, you're not surprised about this one as well. It's definitely down the bottom of everybody's list near enough, because this had so many things wrong with it. Whether it was actually Bryan Singer quitting his role from X-Men 1 and 2, then Brett Ratner having to step in. There was so many issues with this movie. It seemed like they was balancing so many stories. There was deaths in the movie that didn't matter. There was people casted in the movie that shouldn't have been casted as certain characters. Hint, hint, Vinnie Jones as Juggernaut. There was just so much wrong with this movie and very little good about this movie. Compared to X-Men Apocalypse, I only just edge it, mainly because I can understand why they failed with this movie, because there was a different director coming in and really having to fill in a big spot of Bryan Singer, as well as obviously with this movie when it came out around that time. I really enjoyed this movie, and obviously looking at it now as a critic and a reviewer, I can see the problems with it. But I've watched this movie a lot more than Apocalypse, and I probably would go to this movie more than Apocalypse as well. Coming in at number 10, guys, is a shock one. This is X-Men Origins Wolverine. Now, this is going to be probably near enough right at the bottom of everybody's list. And because of this movie is a terrible movie. Now, when I was younger, I really loved this movie. I didn't look at it as obviously a reviewer or a critic side of things of seeing how bad this movie actually was. This on my list when it comes to rankings, this was the worst with a 4.5 out of 10. So there is so much bad with this movie when it comes to the script and the dialogue. The Blob, when it comes to certain actors actually in this movie like will.i.am, they give people chances, and the direction of the movie, the CGI and the special effects, there's just so much technically bad about this movie. But there's just something about this movie that really draws me in and makes me want to watch this movie sometimes. And it's really weird. And I think it's because the chemistry and the actors of Hugh Jackman and Liev Schreiber as Victor Creed and Logan, I really liked them together. And I've always remembered them sort of as like brothers when I was a young kid and stuff. And I don't know what it is about it. It's just something that's really connected with me from when I was younger. Really gives this the edge. And there's just a good story underneath all the badness. Coming in at number 9, guys, it is X-Men Dark Phoenix, or Dark Phoenix, however you want to say it. This movie came out a couple of days ago. I went to go and see it. I've given you guys my review already. If you haven't checked it out, check it out on the channel, guys. And yeah, basically with this movie, I was so pumped for it. This whole journey I've been pumped for X-Men Dark Phoenix, and I really wanted this to work. This is still a good movie, but there is so much wrong with it behind everything that I really enjoyed, really. That's what I want to say. Really, with this movie, the villain, whether it comes to Quicksilver not being in the movie much, whether it comes to some characters not really being themselves, the dialogue, as well as the main point for me, Jean Grey not really being as dark as she could have been. This movie just knocks this movie down quite a bit, really, for me. That's why it's at number 9 in my list. But there's really good points about this movie which really makes it gutting for me, because I expected more in terms of it, because this movie, the first half of the movie was phenomenal in my opinion. I really enjoyed the whole build up throughout this movie. I thought they went through the right tones. I reckon they actually give people spotlight in this movie which should have got it. Especially Nicholas Hoult as Beast, guys. Hank, you're really going to enjoy it if you haven't seen it. I'm not spoiling anything for anybody, but this movie should have done a lot better. Everybody knows it. This is probably going to be way down in everybody else's list. But for me, I still think it's a good watchable movie, but really not one of the best ones. On to number 8 with The Wolverine. Now, this movie was very, very good for what it tried to do. This movie really tried to bring Logan through with a whole new perspective, which we've never seen, with the whole darkness of the character coming from the last stand of losing Jean, having to kill her, as well as the Japanese culture of this movie, mixing in with the Japanese cast, and really the chemistry between Logan and these characters was just phenomenally shown. With the direction throughout this movie, it had its drama, it had really good script and dialogue throughout the movie. Technically, it was a masterpiece, really, for a movie at that time. I thought this movie done really good, in my opinion. But then the whole robot idea just felt like I was watching Iron Man 1 with Obadiah Stane. And then you had Viper, a character which really didn't feel like she was needed throughout the movie, just to injure Logan. She had some cool aspects, but really, this movie didn't fail massively, but it isn't one of the best ones. But the things that fail with this movie for me is, it's not a movie which I jumped to see. I've seen this movie like twice now. The first time it came out, and now literally just because I reviewed it. But it is a good movie. It's just not something I'd go to. Number 7, we have Deadpool 2. Now, obviously, Ryan Reynolds smashing it again with this movie. He's absolutely great as Deadpool every single time. But the thing with this movie, which was really good, was that they experimented with the character of Wade more than Deadpool. That was really something that really got me going through this movie, as well as Josh Brolin as Cable. These two were just amazing throughout the movie. Obviously, there was some things wrong with this movie when it comes to some of the CGI. Some of the people from the first movie were barely in the second movie, which I really enjoyed. It's sort of like they've thrown them in the first movie, made you fall in love with them and go, nope, you're not getting them. That's how it felt to me, really. And the story just felt overcrowded. It felt like it tried to overachieve, and it sort of felt like a Terminator movie, and I'm a big fan of Terminator movies. I felt like I was watching that. This kid's being chased, and it was just like the robots were chasing him. There was someone trying to protect him, and it felt like a Terminator movie to me, and that bothered me. But that's not the thing that bothered me most about this movie. And now I understand this movie, for some people, is at the top of their list. But for me, I feel like it didn't reach the heights that number 1 did. Now, number 1 felt like a Guardians of the Galaxy in the MCU. It done something different for this X-Men franchise. And number 2 just fell short of that, really. It's still a good movie for me. And the reason being is just because this movie felt like leftovers from the first movie. And not only that, this movie, when I want to watch a Deadpool movie, I don't go and watch Deadpool 2. I watch Deadpool 1. Obviously, if I fancy watching number 2, I'll just chuck it on. It's one of them things. But Deadpool 1 created something. That's something that's more memorable. Coming in at number 6, guys, we have X-Men 2. Now this is going to be a shock to most people, because sometimes I've heard people say X-Men 2 is near enough like 3rd, 2nd place in their list. And now this may upset a few people, but come on, this is personal preference. X-Men 2, from a childhood perspective, this came out when I was a young boy, pretty much. And when I remember watching this movie, I always preferred watching X-Men 1. Even though, looking at it now, X-Men 2 is a better overall movie, I just don't know what it is about X-Men 1, even though it's so stupid when it comes to some things. I just really enjoy it a lot more than X-Men 2. And the reason being, I think, is because of the comic book type stuff. And I also think This movie really tried to make Magneto and the X-Men work together, and I don't think that's something I really enjoyed looking at as a comic book perspective. Now, I know it was to save the mutants and everything like that, but really, I always felt like it was always good versus bad, and I've enjoyed that. That's really the main reason. I know it's a silly reason, but it's just personal preference. Coming in number 5, guys, it is X-Men, the first movie that opened up this franchise to everybody, which made me fall in love with it as a child. And I didn't say that in my X-Men 2 one, which I just spoke about, just because I wanted to save it for this one, obviously. Now, X-Men 1 is always something I've gone to more than X-Men 2, which I explained, and the reason being is because I just felt like this one more as a kid really was memorable. I remember Sabretooth being on the screen, the way he looked. I remember Storm coming into this movie being badass, with Rogue and Wolverine as a father and daughter type figure, and relating to that as a child. And this is just a film that was so special to my childhood, that what this done, opening up this franchise, just like Iron Man 1 did for the MCU, it's something special. Now, that's what just edges this movie for me. I know this movie was bad for its time. You got to remember, it was at a time where CGI and the effects and everything wasn't at its best, especially where they pushed some of the characters that really should have been pushed a bit more, like Cyclops, Storm and Jean. They pushed them to the side a little bit in this movie, which does knock this movie down. But really, I love this movie. I love this movie for what it is. The bad guys being the bad guys, the good guys being the good guys, versing each other, where you have Mystique coming through really cool. You have Sabretooth and Toad. Then you have Cyclops, Storm and Wolverine and Professor X. It just felt like a comic book superhero movie, and I remember this from a childhood perspective, and that's why this just edges X-Men 2 at number 5. Coming in at number 4 is X-Men Days of Future Past. Now, guys, I'm feeling your heat. You're probably like, why is this so low down in your list? This is one of the best X-Men movies. Hear me out. Right, this movie is a totally awesome movie. It definitely is one of the best X-Men movies. It just misses out on my top 3. It's in my top 5 still, guys. Come on. This just misses out on my top 3 because of the fact this movie mucked up the timeline so much with the whole time travel aspect. You got to look at it as a whole. Now, this movie I watch a lot. I watch it a lot more than all the bad movies, all the movies I've listed down below in this list, for sure. But it mucked up so much, really, which really affects the future films, and it really annoys me, and that's why this is a little bit down in my list. But there's just so much good with this movie. Even though the time travels in this movie is used so good in this movie, as amazing cast. James McAvoy, who I absolutely love as Charles. Michael Fassbender as Eric and Magneto, as always, is cool. Jennifer Lawrence as Raven and Mystique in this movie was used correctly, for God's sake. She was actually used as a villain and then changed at the end, which was right, and it was understandable. And Hugh Jackman as Logan was used in this movie correctly. He wasn't just used as a sell point. Obviously he was, but he wasn't just used as a sell point and a viewpoint. He was used to go back because he could heal. He could take what he was taking to go back in time, and everything was understandable. At number 3, guys, this is definitely one of my favourite movies. This is X-Men First Class. Now, X-Men First Class is a special movie for me, but also this movie done so much good for what it could at that time, introducing a whole new cast to us, which could have gone really downhill, might I add. I think it done so good. Matthew Vaughn really done well in the directing role. The only things wrong with this, again, is pretty much Mystique being super cringy, being that good character when she was so bad, really. And obviously January Jones as well, playing as Emma Frost. They could have picked someone so much better to play that unique character from the comics as Emma Frost. That's the only 2 things that really knock this movie down for me. But everything else, when it comes to the action sequences, the actors in general, Nicholas Hoult as Hank and Beast, I've always thought was cool. Kevin Bacon in this movie, really badass as Sebastian Shaw. Azazel in this movie, he's one of the good ones to remember, definitely. But the story as a whole, this whole cast coming through, introducing these whole new characters. This is a special movie. Really, I fell in love with first time viewing it. And I've probably watched, I'm going to make a big statement here, I probably watched this movie a lot more than all the other movies on this list. At number 2, we have our first totally fucking awesome movie. Not totally awesome, totally fucking awesome movie with Deadpool. Now, this obviously got a 9 out of 10 from me, which reaches that level for a reason. This was the fact that Ryan Reynolds introduces Deadpool and Wade onto the screen successfully compared to the other superheroes that he's played. He's played as Johnny Storm in the Fantastic Four, he's obviously played as the Green Lantern, he obviously was in X-Men Origins and that was rated badly and put down a lot, and he finally got a movie where he broke through and showed everybody what he could be, and he showed it in the right way possible. This movie is memorable, it's something special, it is just a pure great comedy superhero movie which you rarely get apart from Guardians of the Galaxy. Really, for me, this is just so good. And the fact that I didn't know nothing much about the Deadpool character and they come in and done this, made this movie, this was just amazing. And the fact of that everything it done good, there was just no bad points about this movie for me. So at number 1, guys, this is the winner, my favourite movie as a whole through the X-Men franchise. It is Logan. Now this movie was a masterpiece, still a totally fucking awesome movie with the rating of a 9 out of 10, the same as Deadpool, but really you could rate it anywhere between a 9 and a 10, really. This movie does so good with the rating of the rating R coming through with the Wolverine. This is the Wolverine movie we wanted, guys. They went through 3 movies to get us to what we wanted, with that Logan character coming through, slicing and dicing people up, not healing, going through, being the gritty Wolverine character that we know and love. And it is just great to see it on that screen. Hugh Jackman, amazing throughout this movie. Patrick Stewart, amazing throughout this movie. Everybody's performance throughout this movie just came together and produced a masterpiece. Now, this is definitely one of my... This is not just my favourite X-Men movie of all time. This is probably one of my favourite movies of all time. This is just something I remember so specially. And this brought out every emotion in me, and when I mean every emotion, I mean enough every emotion. I was sitting in my cinema seat, I remember watching this, and even still now to date, I've watched this movie so many times. I've watched the film noir version, it was recommended recently from someone on Twitter. I absolutely loved it in black and white, it was beautiful. And it's beautiful in colour as well, and I've watched this movie so many times, and every time I watch it, it makes me cry, it makes me angry, it makes me happy. This is just a roller coaster movie, and I love them type of movies because it makes me feel so many emotions. I get so excited and I'm on the edge of my seat, and I just love what this movie does. This just brings something, it brings a character which we've watched throughout pretty much all these X-Men movies, and it brings this character to an end in a very good way. This movie could have gone down so badly. So guys, that was my ranking of the X-Men franchise. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and hopefully you guys be friendly in that comment section. When you let me know, please let me know your rankings and your thoughts on my rankings in that comment section, guys. Please, and that'll be great. We can get into a friendly discussion of this franchise, which I've absolutely loved watching and reviewing for you guys. And don't forget to let me know you enjoyed the video by smashing that thumbs up. I've really been loving all the support on the channel, guys. Thank you so much throughout this journey to X-Men Dark Phoenix and on the YouTube channel in general. And don't forget, if you're new here as well, to subscribe and hit that bell for much more. You ain't going to want to miss the stuff already on the channel, as well as the stuff coming out. So tomorrow we've got the spoiler review for X-Men Dark Phoenix, which you guys ain't going to want to miss. I've already released a non-spoiler review, but if you've missed the journey and you're new here, the Journey to Dark Phoenix YouTube series will be a link in the description, annotation at the end of the video, and a card above my head. It will take you through all the reviews from X-Men 1 all the way up to this point where we've ranked them from the worst to the best. And don't forget tomorrow's spoiler review, which will be the last video of this YouTube series, which is absolutely gutting, really. I'm actually quite sad. I've enjoyed this, but don't worry, we've got another journey coming shortly with the Spider-Man franchise. I'm going to be going through that, which is going to be super fun because it's all building up to Spider-Man Far From Home, guys. Without further ado, guys, I've been me, you've been you, and I'll see you next time on Talking with Jay Springer.